All right, my friends, I am picking out of spot number 5 today. I've been waiting for this position. We know the top 4 running backs are going to be gone. This is the Google Doc pinned in the reply section, the comment section here on YouTube. We know that based on the Underdog fantasy ADPs that we're going to see CMC, Dalvin, Saquon, Derrick Henry all going to go as top 4. At the 5th spot, I've been tinkering with the idea of getting off of one of these, well, I guess you could say top 5 running backs and going with Travis Kelce, but when it's time for me to make that decision, it's probably going to be hard for me to do that. I'm likely going to go with Alvin Kamara, and here is why. I have a feeling he's just going to be here. He had a 20.87% market share last year. The running back position, the only person that was close to him in running back receiving targets was J.D. McKissick, and they are totally not the same type of running back. 115 targets last year for Alvin Kamara. I'm all over it, and I feel like he's going to drop right to me. If he doesn't, I'm happy to take Derrick Henry there, who led the NFL in rushing touchdowns with 17 last season. Here it comes, the decision time, and we see it there. Alvin Kamara drops to me. I'm going to be taking Alvin Kamara at the 5th pick. Now I've anchored my running backs. From here on out, I'm going to be going as many wide receivers as I can. If you have watched the previous live stream, you know that my entire goal of these drafts against 155,000 other people is to gobble up as many stacks as I possibly can. Let me turn my webcam on. I just realized that's not on. Boom, there I am, hiding down at the bottom of the screen. I'm slouching. I'm tired. It's early Saturday morning. Let me sit up in my chair. My goal here is to get these massive team stacks so that if I end up getting 3-4 players from one team, they end up being a top 3 offense. That is a good way to separate yourself from the rest of the field. 155,000 people to beat to end up being in first place to win $1 million. You're going to have to take some shots here. So I like the idea of anchoring my lineup with a strong RB1 and then trying to get as many upside stacks as I can. So I'm going to be trying to stack 2 different offenses today. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to work out as I always believe it will in my head, but I'm going to stack up one of these following offenses: the Rams, the Bengals, the Cowboys, or the Packers. I'm going to try to get as many players as I can from those offenses anchored by the quarterback to pass catcher stacks, and I'm also not going to fear putting together the running backs in those spots too if I have the opportunity to do so. Now, we're looking at Austin Eckler going here at the 11th spot, and if we're looking at this, he has gone before Cam Akers, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, and when we look at my ADP chart, we see that Eckler is down here below Akers, below Jones, below Nick Chubb. I don't mind that pick there, but that seems a bit early. In fact, he looks like that person likely could have taken both of Akers and Eckler at that spot, or Jones and Eckler. I'm not entirely sure that was necessary, but let's see. Here's the turnaround. Well, yeah, there it is right there. He ended up getting Nick Chubb and Eckler, so it does not matter. A fine option. All right, so it's coming back to me. I'm 3 picks away. Again, I'm looking at trying to gobble up as much upside wide receivers as I can at this point. I've anchored my running backs. I do see 2 guys here that I'm interested in. If one of them falls to me, I might actually just lock up my 2 running backs, as I had just alluded to the fact that I wanted to take one running back and then go with a bunch of wide receivers, but I see 3 workhorse running backs here potentially coming back to me. Akers really the only one I'm not totally on. I want Jones. If Aaron Jones falls to me, I'll be a happy camper. 2 picks away. Am I going to get lucky? I'm not sure. If I don't get that, there goes Jones, Joe Mixon there. Do I want him if he comes to me? Yeah, I do. If not, I'll take one of these glorious wide receivers. And Joe Mixon just went off the board. So we're going to go with our wide receiver pick, and I'm going Calvin Ridley, and I'll show you why right now. Let me go to the season-long study hub, go look at the wide receiver position. Last year, PPR standings, Calvin Ridley ended up being, and this is half point per reception, Calvin Ridley ended up being the 4th highest scoring wide receiver last season. Market share was fantastic, 25.13% of all the team's targets here. Let me filter these numbers out. If you want to use the study hub, you're free to use it at teamriseorfall.com. You can do all your research here. And when we sort this column, we see Calvin Ridley all the way down there as the 9th highest market share. I think this year specifically without Julio Jones likely not being there, I love Calvin Ridley, and I think sky's the limit this season. I am going to make my next pick here in 6 picks. Let's take a peek at the draft board, though. This is a really nice thing for y'all to look at, and it makes it easy to see kind of how the draft is going. All right, my friends, here I am. I am live right now on the clock, and I've got the opportunity here to go with Amari Cooper, Allen Robinson, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Julio Jones, DJ Moore. I mean, I have the pick of the litter at this point. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb because I'm going to be trying to draft our dude, Dak Prescott, likely in the 5th round here in a couple rounds to see if I can put together a Dallas stack. So CeeDee Lamb goes to me. I feel great about that. I feel like CeeDee Lamb has top 10 upside here. Going to be running out of the slot for a lot of his snaps this season. I think it's going to be a glorious return at that 3rd round. And I know it feels early, but I'm okay taking a stab early on guys that I believe in this season. So give me Alvin Kamara, Calvin Ridley, CeeDee Lamb as my top 3 picks. In my next 4 or 5, I am going to be going with Dak Prescott and probably another wide receiver here. Maybe if I can get one of my top tight ends, I might go there as well. Let's take a peek at what happens. We have seen our second team go with 3 running backs here. Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, J.K. Dobbins. Tons of upside here in the Dobbins pick. I absolutely love that. Unfortunately, Gus Edwards still around. I know Ingram is gone, 72 carries off the table, and I believe 10 red zone carries. But you know, Gus Edwards still hanging around. This team's likely going to divvy up the timeshare a little bit. We saw J.K. Dobbins in RB1 territory last season to close it out as soon as they started sitting Ingram healthy. That's fine. I think that Dobbins' upside is kind of baked into his current ADP, and I'll take him over people like Miles Sanders, so I do like that pick. I would actually take Dobbins over DeAndre Swift as well. High upside in CEH this year, who last year everyone was taking the 1st round, and now everyone's letting him slide to the 3rd round, going as an average ADP. His average draft position right now is 22. Again, looking at my Google Doc here, this is free in the comment section. You guys can have this totally free, and what I did is I show everybody their average draft position. I'll update this once per week, and then I'll highlight everyone's my favorite targets and fades based on ADP. Everybody's viable option in best ball drafts depending on their draft position. So don't let anybody fool you. There's no such thing as a bad pick based on player. It's all only a bad or a good pick based on position that they're being drafted in. All right, so let's come back around. This is a very sharp draft. We do not have a quarterback taken yet. Very, very interesting. Mike Evans, Julio Jones, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown all going to the 12th pick. Alejandro. Second team, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp all went to see my cone here at the 10th pick again. Second time I've seen this, and now we are going to see what they're going to do with their quarterbacks, their running backs, and tight end position. But they are going to be a bit behind the crowd here at running back as I'm looking at the pool, and we're down to like the Mike Davis's, Myles Gaskins, Josh Jacobs of the world, who are all going to go before it comes back around. All right, I get my next pick here. All right, my friends, so at the previous pick, I ended up choosing Mark Andrews. I had just quickly an idea here with Patrick Mahomes going in the 4th, coming back, and then Murray ended up going here. I was thinking to myself, listen, if I don't get Dak, I've got Mark Andrews here as well. I could go Lamar Jackson, one or the other I'm going to get here. I might even be able to wait until the 6th, depending on what happens here with these 2 picks. I'm going to be paying attention. It's not, you know, I feel, well, there goes Josh Allen and Kyler Murray the same. All right, so potentially a quarterback run incoming. Let's take a peek at what happens here over these next 2 picks. If 2 quarterbacks go here, I'm going to be going with Dak Prescott. If none go, I might try to wait until the 6th round to get my quarterback. All right, my friends, so we did see Lamar Jackson go right beforehand, which means I am not going to even try to wait. Dak Prescott, the QB1 through the first 4 weeks of the season last year. I think that him and CeeDee Lamb are going to be a phenomenal stack. I'm going to try to get Michael Gallup later in this draft. Currently, if we're looking at where Gallup is being drafted, we can see that he is all the way down here. I think there's a lot of upside. Where is he? Michael Gallup right here, wide receiver 90, which means I can get him somewhere around round 7 to 8. So I'll try to grab him probably in round 8. Let's see here. Comes back in 6th, 7th, and yeah, I'll probably try to get him right in here in 8. If I have to try to go early, if there's no one else there that I'm totally in love with at 7, I might even go 7 and just take him a little bit early. I'm okay with doing things like that to complete the correlation that I think is necessary to take down a massive, massive tournament. Quick team review. We have this lineup, which I love right now, kind of the ideal scenario. You grab one of the top 5 running backs early, and then you gobble up as many wide receivers as you can, and I think that's a fine strategy. Plenty of upside, 4 flex wide receiver potential. He's going to need to take some type of wide receiver and quarterback stack later. I'm not entirely sure where he's going to go, but let's see how it plays out. This could be an interesting scenario. He could do something like Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen, just hope for a high upside. Big Ben with Deontay here. I don't know. Maybe he can get to, the Charger stack there with Justin Herbert. Come back to Keenan Allen or Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf. Plenty of time, actually. This could end up being a phenomenal draft here if you can get one of them at the 6th round here. All right, so coming back around to me, and I'm going to show my fantasy football quick picks here because I feel like I'm going to need some help. Not entirely sure who is left. Brandon Ayuk, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore. If any of those guys were still there, absolutely would have been on them. Javonte Williams still is there, potentially going to dive on him, and we'll go from there. So those are going to be a couple of my targets that I'm going to be looking at. You guys can get the quick pick sheet totally free as well. In the first link, it says like donuts free stuff. You guys can click that. You'll see how to get it. Very, very simple. One pick away. Here we go. And I think I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd simply because I love the upside of this offense this year. I really do. I think it's phenomenal. Tyler Boyd did not have as many receiving yards and receptions last year, but my goodness, they needed a quarterback. He was a former back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving option for the Bengals. Jamar Chase there, I think, does not take away from him. I think it just opens up the offense. This is a team that was on pace for the most passing attempts per game last season. That's right, before their rookie went down. And if Joe Burrow returns full health this year, I think this offense potentially is going to be heaving the ball 46 times per game again, just like they were averaging last year, which means Tyler Boyd is potentially looking at 10 targets, 9 targets or so per game, running out of the slot. He'll be in there as 3 wide receiver sets at over 80% of the time last year for the Bengals, and I think that I have wide receiver 2 upside there, all the way down there. I believe that is the 26th wide receiver off the board, so give it to me. I'm okay with it. All right, my friends, with my last pick, I chose Jerry Judy. I think there's tremendous upside this year. Hopefully, Drew Lock takes a step forward, and if he doesn't, Teddy Bridgewater's there, and I think he's the better option. Anyways, Jerry Judy coming off 850-yard receiving season, 52 receptions, 3 touchdowns. I think the upside is there for much, much more this season, potentially an increase of 15, 20 receptions, over 1,000 yards. Hey, and if we can get to 6 to 8 touchdowns, I'll be a happy camper there with a mid-7th round selection. Coming back here, we talked about this earlier, what would happen with the running backs with this pick after he started off with 4 wide receivers. This person also started with 5 wide receivers, and their running backs, okay, I suppose. Travis Etienne and Kareem Hunt both are going to be sharing time, both very high upside guys. If James Robinson or Nick Chubb gets hurt, I would assume that we're going to see a massive influx of backup running back choices here, hoping that he just gets, a touchdown from 2 of them per week. Similar approach here. Javonte Williams, Michael Carter. I think these are superior choices here, both at a round later for this person, as they have 5 wide receivers. I actually really like the way this person's draft is turning out. Massive upside. And if Michael Carter ends up being, a heavy volume type running back in a backfield that is going to start off as committee, and if Javonte Williams beats out Melvin Gordon or ends up taking over that, RB1 role for Denver, I love this draft right here. I think it's phenomenal. Jalen Hurts here can still be stacked with a multitude of pass catchers here in Philly as well later in the draft. So I think this is a phenomenal draft right here. Probably the best one so far. Depends on what he does with Jalen Hurts, whom I think has, top 10 upside and was one of my must-draft quarterback choices in one of my recent videos I put out too. All right, my friends, I am on the clock, and I'm going with Michael Gallup, former 66 receptions, 1,100-yard receiver, 6 touchdowns back in 2019. Had himself a decent year, 59 receptions, 840 yards, 5 scores last season. Dak Prescott returning to the fold. I think all 3 wide receivers have standalone value this season, but I love Michael Gallup all the way down there, and at the cost of someone whom I think kind of plays the same type of role as Amari Cooper, downfield threat, right? Michael Gallup can replace him there, absolutely. And I think CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup potentially going to be the future there in Dallas, and Amari Cooper is expendable. So I think that we're going to see CeeDee Lamb as the alpha wide receiver this year, and I think that Michael Gallup will close the gap a little bit between him and Amari Cooper. Amari's going to lose some targets, I think, to Gallup this season, and it's not that I think Gallup is some superior wide receiver option. I just think at the financial cost of drafting, I guess I should say, the equity I invest into Michael Gallup in the 8th round is much better than drafting Amari Cooper as wide receiver 12, which is what his current ADP is. So give me Gallup, give me Lamb, give me Dak. I've got myself my Dallas stack. I feel great about my offense right now. I'm going to have to draft running backs with my next several picks, I think, to shore up what would end up being my RB2 throughout the season. And here we go. It's going to come back around to me in a few. I'll be choosing between hopefully Zach Moss, Gus Edwards. We have, let me see whom else we have. Ronald Jones, James Conner, Kenyon Drake. You know, I'm hoping for these guys who are going to be playing roles where they are sharing time and hopefully end up getting the heavier side of the timeshare or opportunity based on injuries. So I've dialed up my pick queue, and you can take a peek at it. Here is whom I am looking at right now. These are the guys that I'm hoping fall to me. I'm okay with any number of them, and I potentially go Zach Moss here, and then if I can get Gus Edwards back around, I'd be super happy. A guy who had even goal. He had 25 carries in the red zone last year, off the top of my head. 25 carries in the red zone, which tied J.K. Dobbins, and he did so in less games. So 144 carries last year for Gus Edwards, a must-draft running back in my must-draft video as well. So Gus Edwards, definitely someone I want. Zach Moss is there for me. I'm taking him. I think he ends up being the RB1 in Buffalo. Ended up having more carries the second half of the season. 44% of the snaps last year in Buffalo. 54% went to Devin Singletary, but that flipped in the second half of the year. We ended up seeing Zach Moss, I believe, close to 58% of the snaps over the final 8 weeks of the season. So hopefully Zach Moss ends up being the RB1 in Buffalo, and I just drafted the RB1 in one of the top 3 to 5 offenses in the NFL. You know, as I'm reviewing this draft right now, I actually see a lot of teams here that I like that went quarterback extremely late. And I like this idea of Russell Wilson in the 7th, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow in the 8th, even Tom Brady all the way down here in the 9th. And if these teams had put together some good stacks there, I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers down here in the 10th, Matt Stafford down here at 10th. And the more I see this, the more I kind of want to I want to go late quarterback here, because I can draft another player like T. Higgins instead of Dak Prescott, or Josh Jacobs instead of Dak Prescott, and still get a ton of upside in drafting something like a Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers stack, which you saw me do in the previous live draft, where I went Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams team stack, and I ended up getting Aaron Jones too, just all in on the Packers offense, thinking that if Aaron Rodgers ends up playing for the Packers, that the entire offense is just being underdrafted. And I like the idea of maybe going, Jalen Hurts in the 9th round, 8th round, if I get him, Tom Brady with Chris Godwin in the 4th, Mike Evans maybe around the 3rd. I think there's a lot of upside there. Joe Burrow, I love the fact that I can get T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Jamar Chase at 60, 54, and 45 for the rounds. I think that is a phenomenal stack. And you can get Joe Burrow way down there in the 8th round. Devonta Smith going in the 7th. So you could go Devonta Smith and then turn around and get Jalen Hurts back-to-back as your 7-8 picks. 10 seconds on the clock. I'm okay with it. I've got these 3 guys dialed up. Kenyon Drake, I'm hoping for, some volume there at the running back position out there in Las Vegas. If Josh Jacobs goes down with injury, Kenyon Drake slides in there with RB1 upside each and every week. I'm just trying to fill out my running back stable here, and I am going to end up with Moss, Kamara, and Drake. I still need to continue to pile in as much of these upside type running backs because each and every week I'm going to be hoping one of them scores a touchdown or has RB2 upside. RB2 I think is one of the least important spots in the draft next to probably tight ends, since I think that if you're not getting one of the top 3 guys, you're mostly just... I think that RB2 has probably the least amount of value this year in the draft. You can draft a lot of guys who have the upside of scoring a touchdown each and every week and ending up being somebody who is a viable RB2 option. So I'm not entirely intrigued on taking 2 running backs early this year. Dak Prescott here makes it nice and strong for my Dallas stack with CD and Gallup, and then I've got enough guys here where I think one of these will always slide in there as my flex option. Bye weeks going to be kind of tough here with Dallas in 7, Zach Moss in the 7th as well. So hopefully I can fill out the rest of my lineup there and feel strong about my buys. Not something I pay a ton of attention to in best ball drafts. Let me pay attention here with my next pick. So I'm looking at David Johnson, Nyheim Hines here at the running back position. Wide receivers, Rondale Moore, Russell Gage, I really like there. So hopefully those will be one of my picks. David Johnson here as the potential upside pick here in Houston. Actually, I'm going to pivot off of that real quick. I'm going Russell Gage here. Had 110 targets last year. I think no Julio Jones this year. Potentially even bumps that up. And I'm going to try to grab one of those running backs that I had alluded to earlier later in the draft. So maybe I'll get lucky, get David Johnson, Nyheim Hines, one of these guys come back around to me. Jamal Williams, Devin Singletary, Latavius Murray, Darrell Henderson. Filling out my running back queue here, and any one of these guys that drops to me in the next round, I'll be totally okay with. 12th round running backs, we're just hoping for volume if opportunity should arise. Listen, while you're watching this video, again, in the comments section, you can get the ADP chart and all my targets and fades based on ADP. This is going to be updated every single week throughout the year. This is what I'm using to do all my drafts. I'm also using this, which you can get as well down below for free in the first link in the description section. The quick pick cheat sheets, the entire draft kit is actually available free. You just follow the instructions down below in the description section. So you can use the rest of my tools and content to get the rest of the draft kit if you'd like for free. It's not the only thing involved in the draft kit. It's just one of the only things I feel like showing today. As I am doing another $25 Best Ball Mania draft. And as you see my draft come together here, you can see Kamara was an easy choice there. And right around here, I do have some regret at this point. I'm starting to see some spots where I could have gotten some other guys later and felt much better about it. I feel like I have a good strategy going into the next draft. So you've seen me do 2 drafts now, where I ended up choosing heavy Packer stack with Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Rodgers, whom all 3 I thought were being drafted way too late. And then this one, you saw me do the Dallas stack. For my next video, I can tell you right now, I'm going to try to be doing a Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Matt Stafford, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, one of these types, Russell Wilson, one of these stacks where I don't have to take a quarterback in the top 5. I mean, Aaron Rodgers I took in the 10th round last time I did this video as well. I hope to be able to replicate that, but just use a different quarterback. Here we are. I'm about to be up. I've got one of these 3 running backs dialed up. I'm okay with whomever falls to me. I'm kind of hoping it's Jamal Williams. I don't want to lock up the Bills' backfield like this. I'm not a big fan of locking up backfields in best ball. I kind of want to have multiple starting running backs. If I'm investing into a backup, I'm hoping that one of them gets hurt, right? I don't need that. I'd rather have Jamal Williams and Zach Moss and hope that Aaron Jones or, Devin Singletary miss some time for whatever reason. Then now I have 2 starting running backs instead of just 1. All right, so we get Jamal Williams. Nice. All right, we're going Jamal. Going to be a tough offense this year, I think, out there in Detroit, but maybe that leads to some, reception upside there for Jamal Williams. Who knows? But we're just kind of throwing darts at upside plays at this point. So one of my favorite draft targets in the entire draft is Treycon Smith, all the way down here at 160. I am on the clock right now, and I am going to be taking him way earlier than that, and I'm okay with it. I think Treycon Smith basically going to be the number 2 option there. And yeah, Drew Brees is gone, but come on, I think Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill going to be throwing the football a decent amount of time this year. I don't think it's going to be a run-heavy offense. It never really is, never has been. I don't think they have the bodies to do so. And I think that Kamara's strength is the passing game, and I think that they are going to be throwing the ball 35, 38 times this year per game. Treycon Smith sliding in there to a starting wide receiver 2 role. Jared Cook is gone as well. There's just an abundance of targets potentially there across from Michael Thomas taking a lot of the attention away. I think Treycon Smith completely undervalued right now. ADP of 160, meaning he is going somewhere in the 13th to 14th round. You know, I was able to draft him, and let me slide this off the screen, I was able to draft him right there in the 13th round. So I'm good with it. I'm happy with it. Plenty of upside. Another option just like Russell Gage, where I think there's just going to be a clear path to 120 or so targets this year. All right, so my next pick that's coming around, I'm hoping that Jared Cook, Gerald, Everett, or Cole Kmet drops to me. I do already have Mark Andrews locked up. I feel good about that. Ooh, there goes one of them, and we've got Cook and Kmet left. Jared Cook, I think, has phenomenal upside. You guys saw me take him in my Aaron Rodgers stack draft late, and he ended up being basically my tight end 1. I think he's phenomenal value this year in a spot where we see every single season someone return value. Donald Parham is there to timeshare to some extent out there in the Chargers, and I think Parham, a massive athletic freak, but Jared Cook is going to be a sure-handed downfield tight end threat, even as an aging veteran for Justin Herbert. And, you know, we've seen him return fantastic value for 3 years in a row at the tight end position. And I think this is a spot where he could have 75, 80 targets this year, a few more than he's had the last 2 seasons, and have the red zone upside, have the downfield upside. You know, if we see a 50 reception, 700-yard, 8 touchdown year, you are totally happy with a guy who's going to end up borderline top 12 tight end results. And I'm 3 picks away. Looks like potentially I'm going to get one of them for sure, which I'm happy with. Please be Cook, 2 picks away. Can't get sniped. I'm not live drafting this time, so that is good. Jared Cook hopefully falls to me, and we'll see what happens. If he does not fall to me, I'm going to go Cole Kmet here. Baker Mayfield just went 2 picks before me. I love that. I love Carson Wentz. I tried getting both of them in my previous draft as well, and I do get Jared Cook, and my goodness, I feel phenomenal about this choice. Let's take a peek at my roster. I'm going to hide my webcam real fast so you guys can see this. I have Dak Prescott as my quarterback, Kamara, Zach Moss, Kenyon Drake, Jamal Williams, a bevy of RBCCs here at the running back position. But man, I feel amazing about my wide receivers. Calvin Ridley, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Boyd, Jerry Judy, Michael Gallup, Russell Gage, Treycon Smith, and then Mark Andrews and Jared Cook at tight end. To finish out my draft, I'm going to draft as many running backs as I can and 1 backup quarterback. And I'm just all in, hoping Dak stays healthy this year and nothing else matters. So let's focus on the quarterback position to grab my backup. And I'm totally okay with all of these backups right here. This is why I waited as late as I could. I knew I would have plenty of options here at the at the quarterback position to fill out my backup. So here we go, 2 picks away, and let's see whom I can get. All right, my friends, so I'm choosing Ben Roethlisberger as my backup quarterback here. Threw 600 passing attempts last season. Do I think he throws that many? No, but I'm okay with a guy who has upside of 30 passing touchdowns. I think even if he only throws 550 passing attempts or so, which I do think they'll still have to throw, I get that Najee Harris is going to be a workhorse back there, but even if he has 270 carries, that's only about 30 more than what they would have had last year had he been the only guy gobbling them up. They had right around 300 carries last year as a team. I think that even if he is getting 90% of the touches this year, 270 carries means they're still going to be throwing the football 550 or so times. So take away 50 passing attempts, a 5% touchdown rate for Big Ben, and my friends, you only lose about 2 to 2.5 touchdowns. So if he's throwing the ball 550 times and still gets 30 touchdowns, I just have one of the steals of the draft, even in a noodle arm Big Ben at this point in his career. He's got 3 wide receivers, big body tight end that can make plays for him and get a bunch of receiving touchdowns, even if he's not throwing the ball 60 yards down the field anymore.